Hey there guys, in today's video I have previously shown you this puzzle feeder that I purchased from a online pet retailer. It was originally made for dogs, but in today's video I am going to show you guys how I am going to use this for an aviary of small parrots. So if that's something you guys are interested in seeing, you want to make sure to stick around. That's going to be coming up right after this. Hey there guys, this is Jack over at Hi Red Bird, where I am tirelessly working to find new ways to make the keeping of exotic animals and pets more exciting, more affordable, and ultimately more enjoyable. Now, one of the things to me that is incredibly enjoyable about animal keeping is discovering new forms of enrichment that I can use with my animals. Seeing the way that they interact with different pieces of enrichment, different toys, different outside stimuli is one of the things that makes taking care of animals so incredibly rewarding. However, if you have exotic animals, if you have animals that things are not immediately sold for as toys, it can be a little bit challenging. For a lot of people with exotics, this is going to be a struggle that they face. And that is okay, because there are usually going to be options that, even though they are not made for your animal, can be used for your animal. When you are working in a zoo environment, it is really, really important that you have the ability to look at different toys, different enrichment opportunities that are offered for things like dogs or cats, and figure out what you would do to either use those items or modify those items so that something could be done to provide an enrichment opportunity for large hoof stock or big cats or elephants, because the pet store doesn't sell toys for those animals. So figuring out how ideas can work and then applying them to different animals is going to be very, very useful. And I thought that this puzzle feeder right here had a lot of potential when it came to being used for small parrots. Now, there are a couple of things that you want to do whenever you use an enrichment item for a species it is not originally intended for. First and foremost, as always, you want to make sure that the item that you are going to be using is useful for your animal. You can't just throw a toy to an animal and think, oh, that will be fine, you got a toy. There has to be a perceived way that they are going to interact with that enrichment item, or a planned way that they are going to interact with that enrichment item. Now, your observations may indicate that they are not going to interact with that item the way you were planning, but you need to have a reason why you were giving that enrichment item to begin with. This right here is a great foraging opportunity. Second, and this is almost as important, once you know why you are giving an enrichment item, you need to make sure that what you are giving is safe for the animal that you are giving it to. This puzzle feeder is a heavy-duty plastic, and while I probably wouldn't feel comfortable giving it to something like a large macaw, which could probably shred it in a matter of seconds, I'm going to be giving it to an aviary of small parrots, which, while under observation, I do not think they will be able to do any damage to the puzzle feeder. I don't think they'll be able to break off and ingest any plastic. So I think it's going to work very, very safely for them. And of course, I am going to be supervising this entire interaction. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this interaction of this puzzle feeder being used for an aviary of small parrots. So to start, I'm going to set up this puzzle feeder on the ground in the aviary. I'm going to be using a seed mix. It's actually not their normal seed mix. This one is more brightly colored. I figured that would get their attention visually. And you can see that since this is the first time I'm offering them this, I'm not exactly being the neatest as I am putting the seed into the feeder. I want to make sure that they're able to see some of the seed on top of it, on the ground around it, so that way they can still get a little bit of a reward without even having to interact with the feeder. Basically, the first thing I want to try to encourage them is that the feeder is not something scary. And you can see it doesn't take very much time at all before the birds are going right up next to it, starting to pick at all of the seed that is around it. One of the nice things about this feeder is that it has those two different mechanisms. There's those yellow slider pieces, but the red flip pieces actually have those paw print shaped holes in them. So the birds, if they land on there, as you can see that budgie has done now, they'll actually be able to see inside those red flip pieces. And even just from walking around on this feeder, they've already started to push open one of those, and they're realizing that there is some seed in and all around this. So there are so many different ways that you could use this for parrots. Here I am using, again, a millet-based seed mix, but obviously if you had bigger parrots, you could use a larger seed mix, maybe even some nuts that are going to be safe and healthy for your bird. Another thing I want to point out is while I am offering this puzzle feeder, you can see I'm recording it. This is their first time getting it. The first time an animal gets anything, you should always be monitoring that interaction. Now, I chose this puzzle feeder to go in this aviary because I thought the pieces are reasonably sturdy. I didn't think it likely that any of the plastic could be ingested. I didn't think it likely that anyone could get caught on either one of those sliders or those flip mechanisms. But animals like to prove us wrong. So even if you think something is completely safe, it is still in your best interest to monitor it to make sure that it actually is. And not only do I get to make sure that this is safe for my animals, but I do get to see them problem solving, interacting with this. So here you can see that lovebird is starting to figure out that there is seed under that yellow slider, and is even starting to reach in with the beak, starting to push it and learn how that mechanism works. When you're working with birds in an aviary or in a large flock setting, all it takes is for 1 to 2 birds to figure it out. The other birds are obviously going to be watching their flock mates, and they are going to learn from them. Now, this aviary does have primarily budgies, but it does have a few other birds as well. There are going to be a few cockatiels, and then there is this one lovebird as well. This lovebird actually flew into someone else's aviary. They had no idea what to do with it. Their aviary was a very, very large bird, so they were concerned that it wouldn't do well in there. So it actually came to live in this aviary and is doing really, really well. So you can see even just a few minutes later, basically once the lovebird got its fill, the budgies are now climbing all over everything. And even just by landing on those flip mechanisms, they're managing to open it up. But they are starting to work with those pieces as well. You can see even the budgies are moving those sliders around. So this was a really, really cool experience for these birds. I think they got a lot out of it, and it definitely gave them a little bit more mental stimulation, a little bit more of that foraging activity to help promote their overall well-being. So if you like this idea, go ahead and let me know down in the comment section below. Subscribe to the High Red Bird channel if you haven't already so you don't miss out on any of these videos. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. I do need to say a special thank you to my patrons on Patreon. By signing up to support this channel, they help me make more tutorials and videos showcasing animal care possible. If you'd like to find out more about subscribing to my Patreon, you can find the link in the description section down below. Thanks so much.